Hi, I'm DJ Ware. On this episode of the Cyber Gizmo, we're going to be looking at Whonix version 16 right after this. So today we're going to be looking at Whonix 16. The last time I took a look at Whonix, I think it was back on version 15 and some odds. So this is actually 16.0.2.7. So for those of you who are not familiar with Whonix, Whonix is software designed to preserve your privacy as best that it can, and to help you, by being anonymous, by making sure that your applications run anonymously so that they aren't exposing you and allowing people to track you as you use the software and use the internet. It unlike, just running a Tor browser, Whonix is protecting even the applications, your mail app, your NTP server, all of the things that you might be using. Maybe you're transferring files. Maybe you're using an IRC client. Maybe you're on some chat program that you're using to talk with other people. Might be using Zoom. Might be using Skype. So all of that traffic goes through Tor. Whonix can be installed on a number of operating systems and platforms. So it can be installed on Windows and Mac OS. On Linux, there's also a KVM version. There, of course, is a Virtualbox edition as well, and which is actually the Linux version. And there is a Docker container as well that is supported by, I think there's a couple of people that support it. So Whonix is just like Tails? Well, I guess in one sense, yes, they are similar in that they try to prevent you from standing out in a crowd. And you're meant to kind of blend in and look like everybody else so that there's nothing that's particularly interesting about you. Tails is a live OS though. I mean, it's meant to boot up off of a USB key or a DVD, something that you'll take with you and you can plug into your computer and bring up your Tails environment. Tails does offer a persistent environment. It also has root access or rootable access in which you can install software on it, although that isn't really the intent of Tails. Tails is really meant to be used to protect your use of the internet. So, I mean, that's really its intent. I mean, there's some of the security capabilities are similar to Whonix. There are some security capabilities that are better with Tails, and there are a lot more security capabilities under Whonix that are much better than Tails. So it depends, I guess, on what you want. Now, of course, now Whonix forms the basis of cubes and serves as the anonymous layer under cubes. And anyway, it runs inside of a virtual machine on your computer. And there are two virtual machines that it creates. One is the gateway, which connects to Tor. The other is your workstation, which talks to the gateway. So you do not talk to Tor directly on your workstation. You're not connected directly to it. And that has some advantages. You're not connected directly to Tor. There is a level of trust. The workstation can't just willy-nilly, connect to the gateway. It has to be in a string. And if it is, then the gateway will connect. Whonix is always persistent, however, unlike Tails. You don't have to go in and enable a persistence layer. But the other thing about Whonix that Tails does not do is it hides the hardware serials from malicious software. So software can't see any kind of identifying information that your particular hardware components might have or might bleed out that could be used to uniquely identify. If you pile on enough of those, you could uniquely identify someone's computer. Also, it hides your MAC address, which from the applications, which definitely could be used to fingerprint your network card. Now, of course, there's always ways you can spoof a MAC address, but you could accidentally reveal it, and you can't do it on Whonix. It also uses a hardened version of Linux called KickSecure. Now, it does use Debian 11 as its base OS, and then KickSecure kind of wraps it with a security hardening layer around it. So, but you do have Whonix running on a host OS of some kind. So just. Okay, well, but why not just use a VPN? I mean, they're easier, they're faster, aren't they? Why don't you just do that? So The problem with virtual private networks, unless you control all the ends of it, yeah, you're trusting someone else with your data. So you're sort of kicking the can down the road and saying, okay, I'm going to pay you some money. I'm going to trust you with my data because the VPN is going to know who I am. There's a login, there's some kind of passport or something that it uniquely identifies me to get on that site. Now, some of the VPN providers have means to try to anonymize, but yeah, you are in the link. And really about the only benefit from a VPN from the standpoint of a public internet is to protect you from the ISP. It clearly will protect you from your ISP because they can't see what you're doing. But they can detect that a Tor connection. So the ISP knows that you are going to a Tor connection. They can see that, and a VPN would help mask that out. But VPNs are, yeah, they're normally faster than Tor. And more security layers you pile on, the slower things run, and that's just the way things are. So, but the only problem with VPNs is that they do not really protect your privacy. Because at some point that what happens is like an SSL connection, for example, your data goes encrypted to the site and they have to then unwrap it because they have to know where it's going to go. So they have to unwrap it. They rewrap it in the SSL protocol and out it goes to wherever destination address that you have identified. So at that point, you're vulnerable, right? And some VPNs log. Now I say administrators, but you could have somebody that's working for the VPN company. We've seen this happen where they have log traffic and surprise, we've got all your traffic and we use it against you. So the user is connecting. They know where you're connecting from because they have information about your account. They also know where you're going because you gave that information to them as part of the traffic you sent them. And once it leaves the VPN, well, you're back in the public domain again. I mean, so there's lots of ways you can end up revealing your identity, and they do not protect you from fingerprinting or anything like that. So, I mean, yeah, you could be tracked that way. So should you use a VPN? I'm not telling you no. I mean, there's some good uses for it if you're trying to prevent your ISP from being able to maybe throttle you or for some other reason because of where the sites you're going to. And the other question that I've heard is that should I use a VPN over Tor? Well, in the previous one I did, if you go look at that video, you'll notice I said no. Don't use a VPN over Tor. However, I've kind of changed my opinion a little bit in talking to some people are a lot more knowledgeable about security than I am. There are some good reasons why you might want to use a VPN with Tor, particularly if you are inside of the onion, or the dark web, if you want to call it that. So, yeah, there are some good reasons to use a VPN, and will just help mask your identity a little bit more. So there are some good reasons for using it. So, well, how does Whonix really do its job? What does it do? So, as I said, there's two parts. There's the gateway and the workstation. The workstation talks to the gateway. So if it wants to open a browser connection through Tor, you have a Tor browser on the workstation that talks to the gateway. The gateway then opens the Tor connection to what is called a gateway connection or a gateway link that is really your first node. Now, I also have a video on Tor and how it works. So if you're interested in that, I'll put a card up and you can see that as well. But there's actually 3 layers of encryption. There's always 3 layers that your Tor connection goes through. So there are 3 layers, one for each one of those sites that it's going to hop to. So the first layer contains the encryption for the first node. It peels off your traffic. It knows where you came from. It knows where you came from. So it then will peel off the encryption layer that contains the address that it needs to go send the packet to, and that's the second connection. And it will do that. The second connection knows how to peel off that second layer of encryption, and when it does, it sees the address for where it needs to send the to the third server. And then the third server takes that and peels off the last piece of encryption. Now, you can still be encrypted inside because you can have SSL traffic or some others, but if you're using email, of course, you don't have any protection there at that point. I mean, you're out in the clear, and then it transmits it out to the public internet and to the sites beyond. The advantage of Tor is that each one of the relay nodes only knows the site before it and the site after it. It doesn't see anything more than that. So yeah, that's all it knows. So that's basically how it works. If you don't have any of this protection, well, as you can see on the orange side, you're passing your traffic through the network, going through a chain of servers, and without any kind of protection, they can start the people that are doing ad tracking and all of that. They can start putting together a profile on you and determining, what your habits are, what you like, what you don't like, and then tailor whatever ads they want for you, or worse. So that would be the best thing that would happen to you. So how does Whonix protect your privacy anyway? What other mechanisms does it have? Well, it has a number. The first thing is that your identity can be leaked through the use of your DNS. A lot of the protocols we use are from the days when none of the traffic on the internet was encrypted at all. There is encrypted versions of DNS, but a lot of sites don't use them. I don't know why, but a lot of sites don't use them. So even if you did, there have been reported studies and vulnerabilities in those that have leaked out data inadvertently. So some places where you think that you're leak proof, you find out that you're not leak proof, and that your DNS is got your actual IP, and it's beaconing it out to the internet for anybody to read. So that is one of the things that Whonix has, is it prevents that. It has protection built into it that tries to prevent that. Also, it prevents anyone from learning your physical location. So it makes it very difficult because of the way it changes the routing through the Tor network and to the entrance gateways where it goes and where it comes from as to what your real identity is, as in terms of your physical location. Also, there's a protocol leak protection and fingerprinting location. Fingerprinting being, it could be a number of variables that come together that form a unique picture on you. You want to be in the crowd, not standing out where somebody can identify you by name, by looks, by what you do, how you do it, how you type, how you speak, all that stuff. Also, secure distributed time synchronization mechanisms can be used to determine your location. If you get three of them together, you can pinpoint by the time, the lag, the time delay in reaching the servers and getting a reply. You can triangulate back to an approximate location. So yeah, that's one of the things that it also protects from. It also uses AppArmor profiles to restrict certain high-risk software. So the people that do Whonix, they control that. So the updates that come out will update that. It also tries to hide. Now, I talked about the hardware serialization. There are other hardware things that it tries to do as well as network details that might leak out that might be used to identify you. So it tries the best it can to try to manage that. I'm going to say it's perfect. Nothing is. So yeah, I mean, that's really the tenet, is that no operating system or security solution is really safe, period. And then I would say, and it should be vetted by a software security or a security professional to make sure that it does not have any vulnerabilities which might, inadvertently leak data. So, and then if you do stupid things like sign on to Facebook or other areas that have a multitude of ways to track you and to figure out who you are, you've just undone everything that Whonix did. So, I would advise that on social networking sites, stay the heck off of them. Do your browsing and do your work elsewhere. And then that's kind of where Cubes comes in, where it's throwaway environment. So you can, if you really need to go to Facebook, personally, I don't know why, but If you really need to go to Facebook, you could burn the account, burn the whole session by doing it in a throwaway VM. So yeah, when I originally did my reviews of Whonix on 15, I had a little bit different take on it than I do now. I was used to using cubes and tails and kind of had a mindset that was more foreign by the way that system worked, and Whonix seemed kind of foreign to me. Well, in recent months, that has changed, and now I don't view it like, well, I don't really need this. And quite frankly, the host operating system part of Whonix still bothers me because your security of your virtual machines, just like it is on cubes, is dependent on the host OS. If the host OS becomes infected or is compromised, then your VMs could be also, because the host OS that is hosting those VMs sees everything in there anyway. And it controls memory, it controls the network. So, yeah, I mean, there's not much you can do there. So that has always been my issue with things like containers and things like Dockers. Yeah, there's all kinds of tricks and ways that they try to protect that, but we're human. We're not infallible. So, I mean, people make mistakes and they goof up and they slip a bug in and bam, out goes the data and you can't bring it back. So, yeah, that is a problem. But again, like with all things security, it's really not about safety or being secure. It's a level of acceptance that you are willing to live with in terms of risk. So, I mean, that's what any security professional will tell you, is that you can't reach the bar at 100% secure. So it's what can you live with and what's acceptable to you. And the other side of it is, how much are you willing to pay? Because the higher that bar goes, the higher that cost goes. It's just that's the nature of the beast. So after I've used cubes and tails and Whonix now for probably a few weeks now, I've really come to appreciate Whonix for what it is, and I've come to enjoy the way they do their security. I've come to learn a little bit more about it. So, is it the end-all tool for me? Will I stop using tails? Will I stop using cubes? No, but it's another tool. Not all jobs need a hammer. Some of them need a saw. Some need a screwdriver. So, yeah, I mean, it's a matter of fitting the tool to the job that you have at hand. So that's the way I look at it. So I guess the next step here is we need to take a look and get Whonix up and running and go through the steps of getting it installed. And like I said, I'm going to do KVM, it's more intensive. And so I've created some scripts and I'll put those on my GitLab page and you can go check them out. So let's get on with it and I'll be right back. So the next step is I need to have the Whonix tar file. Now that is a tar file that is on their website. And in there, you will see that there's a number of things that this particular script is going to do. And it will, those two auto start will fail. The net auto start and net start will fail because it's already set up. I've already run through this once. And I did not remove those resources. So if I attempt to recreate them again, it's going to fail. So let me get into I've created a directory to put all this stuff in so I can keep it there. Yeah, let me sign in with the right password. And as you can see, yeah, it's already failed to start. Next step is to unpack the tar file. And in there are 4 XML files, a license agreement, a disclaimer, and 2 QCOW files, which of course are the VM storage. So yeah, you'll need those in order to obviously launch. It comes pre-configured and there's really nothing much you have to do to get it running once you get this installed in the right places. Yeah, as you can see, again, the network is already active. It's already up. So those are going to fail, of course. But the 2 main things that we wanted to have happen here was to have it actually copy. which is at the bottom. The gateway and the domain are copied. So the next step is to actually verify and make sure that those files are in the right locations. And so this is the library path that you would look for those in. And I'll put these shell scripts up on my GitLab page if you want to use mine. I mean, they're the same instructions as what's on their website. It's just, you can just run them from a shell script instead of having to do that. Okay, so I've launched Virt Manager here, and I have two VMs. One is the gateway for Whonix, and one is the workstation. So we'll go ahead and launch the gateway, but the first thing we need to do is open and make a couple of changes to the description for the VM. I'm going to up the number of CPUs to 2. And then validate that, and then go to the memory. As you can see, that's set to 512. This will not launch with 512 meg of memory. You need 2 gig. And they also recommend that. I don't know why these particular files, maybe they just haven't updated them yet, but they really need to say 2 gig. It'll just sit there on a black screen if you don't change this memory amount. So if you have that problem, go check your memory and make sure that you're at 2 gig. And I think you'll find that it'll work a lot better. And then understand, I have to accept the license agreements. And then, yeah, everything is completed, finished system. I have to run a system check. And the first thing is to connect to the Tor network. Now, if I need to configure a bridge or a proxy, I can do that. Or I can disable Tor if I need to do that. But in this case, I'm just going to take the check option and make sure that it's running. And it's connected fine. So we're in good shape. And yeah, these come up automatically. These are your system checks to make sure that, that the status is good, that everything is correctly functioning in the gateway. And so they'll take a few minutes to run, and then, yeah, it finishes pretty quick. No errors. They're all good here. One other thing I want to do is check the status of the Tor network. And after I get this done, I'll do that. So as you can see, the user has a password and was set to change me. And yeah, we will want to definitely change that to something. So enter the existing password and then a secure password. There, now our password is updated properly. The next thing to do is to make sure the system is fully up to date. We'll apply any patches from Debian and also from Whonix. Now these will come over the Tor network and you'll see that. So everything is good. And we'll bring the system back up. You always want to bring up the gateway first. So if I haven't mentioned that, you'll need to bring that gateway up first before the workstation. And I'm just going to check a couple things here. First, we'll look at the Tor status. It's fine. And then now that is SDW date. That is a synchronizing time manager. And that has an issue in this case. It will sort itself out, so it won't need us. And the next thing to do is I want to check my IP address. Let's validate and make sure that we do have Tor traffic occurring. I'm not too worried about the time and date. Like I said, it'll be fine. I'm going to bring up Nix, and Nix will show me the status of the Tor network. Now you'll see that relay disabled right here. That means that I am not running a Tor relay. So I'm not running one, and of course it would be disabled. But it looks like we have some traffic going over the network, so it looks good. It's both download and upload is occurring, so that looks fine. And we'll go back over to Workstation. And, well, probably the first thing I need to do here is also do the same thing, is edit it. So we'll do that. I'm going to add a CPU and then check memory. Now, one thing, they recommend 2 gig, but I will recommend 4 gig. And later on, we'll update that because 2 gig is just not enough, especially if you're trying to run other applications. If you're actually trying to do some work. All right, same thing. I have to sign a license agreement. And another one, part 2. And everything is good, so I can hit finish. And again, it's going to run some system checks. And we'll get that done so that we have that out of the way. I don't like to leave default passwords laying around in the system, as I'm sure that you don't either. And then we'll do a full update. That will take care of this problem. There's a couple of things. One is it might be a bug in this particular version that was fixed by a patch. And second, we're out of sync. The gateway is on a newer version of the code than we are. So we've really got 2 problems here. So we want to bring them into sync. And then we'll reboot the machine, the workstation this time. And the SDW is fine over here. So let's go ahead and bring up Tor. And this, of course, is a local file. So I'm going to make a couple of changes to the preferences here. And there's a few things we'll want to change. It's actually 3 things, but when I recorded this, I skipped one, but the system caught it. So the first thing is the default search engine I want it to be on Onion, which allows me to prefer an Onion service. Onion services are those services that are contained inside the Tor network. So it doesn't have to go fully through the Tor network and then out the exit gateway to get to a service. It'll look for one. Now, safer and safest generally breaks a lot of applications. So safer is where I usually use it. Now, there are times where I will switch it to safest, but in my general case, I don't. But you can set it however you want. Okay, so it's asking me, now you'll notice that I am on the internet version of the Whonix page here. And it's asking me, do I want to prioritize my Onion services? And I'll say always, and it'll click that button for me, the always, which is the thing I forgot to do. And I'll go ahead and close this. Now you'll notice that it has switched to the Onion version of the website. So hopefully this will be a little faster than trying to pass all the way through the Tor network and then all the way back out again. So yeah, Whonix on the dark web. So I'm trying to see if I can override it. Since I said always, it should always prefer the Onion side if it finds one, of course. And it does not switch, which is what I would expect. So some of the apps you have here are a web browser, a mail reader, file manager, and a terminal. There's a lot of applications, and the thing to remember about this version about Whonix versus running a Tor browser is that if you're running a Tor browser, you're only protecting the interface between the browser and the sites. Anything else you have running that has an IP address open is not going through the Tor network. Whonix, everything goes through the Tor network. Your mail, even your IP, even some of your IP traffic, like for your time servers and all that, will go through Tor as well. Yeah, there's quite a few applications. There's a password manager, KeePass, and then there's also a Monero wallet. There's also ZuluCrypt. ZuluCrypt allows you to encrypt both files, directories, and you can create containers to stuff a lot of other things inside it. So I'm going to check and make sure that I'm up to date on the Tor browser. And it is. It's up to date. All good there. It is it's fairly locked down. So you'll want to exercise a little bit of care when you're enabling ports that you want open. I'm trying to find Cloak. And I see it. It's gone by. It's right there. Cloak, there's a couple of things here. Cloak, we'll just do a man page and let it tell you. It is it attempts to de-anonymize your keyboard keystroke. So what it's trying to do is trying to just confuse whoever's tracking you, because some of the tracking mechanisms are to look at your cadence, what keys go down, how much noise they make. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways they can track. Maybe make the same spelling mistakes like me. And so all of those things would be used to track you. Cloak is trying to prevent that by changing stuff up and disguising things on how you type. I'm going to try a IP leak test, and there are a number of them out here. There's .com, .org, and .net. I'm going to go to .org. .org, I don't know. I'm not a real big fan of this site. Every time I've used this inside a Tor, it always seems to choke and have a problem with the WebRTC part of it. So we'll try it, but I think it'll probably do the same. So it'll tell, yeah, it adds, great. And then you have, you do have some, I am hiding my IP address. There's no IPv6 leak, and there's the WebRTC it's testing. VPN, proxy Tor, no VPN, and then it's trying to advertise the VPN to me, and then leak org last update. But it's not telling me anything about the IP or the DNS. So the DNS is the thing that's really critical. So let's just forget this. This doesn't give me enough information. Plus the fact that I'm still waiting to see if that RTC leak test ever completes. It never has for me, but maybe it has for you. Every time I've come here, it always has done that. So I'm going to go up to the net. I prefer to use this one. Maybe you have a favorite. If you do, put it in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you guys use. So as you can see, now it'll randomize my IP address. So yeah, on every new access to the internet, it tries to do that to try to keep things done. Now the DNS check, it didn't stop, but you'll probably notice if you read it, it said there was 100 errors, which it didn't find anything. So the other thing it anonymizes is the browser information. Most browsers, they cough up all kinds of information about what version of the browser you're running, what operating system you're on, a bunch of other stuff that it really doesn't need to be telling anybody. So, okay, let's go back over to Whonix for a minute. I want to show you the wiki, which is where you can find some of the documentation that you'll need later. So there's an overview if you want to find out, how does Whonix work and what does it actually do? And then the download. There's also first steps. These are suggestions that Whonix has, the Whonix dev team has for you to follow if you want to do additional configuration to kind of tighten things up and then try to protect your identity more by taking some of these precautions. So yeah, there's platform specific desktop tips and so forth, and then there's the post security ones that you can go through. My memory config right now, as you can see, I have 924 meg used, and 902 meg of that is the buffer cache. So it's not using a lot of memory, but the buffer cache has swollen quite substantially. So I'm going to go ahead and get Linus down and installed. I'm just curious as to what Linus finds. 70%, not bad, not horrible. If you want to know more about Whonix, I'll put some, in the start of this video, I talked about all the capabilities it has and what's new in this particular release. Yeah, that's all I had for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. And as always, hope to see you all again very soon. Bye for now.